Today we have the privilege to sit down with Marque Walker. Marque, a native Memphian, is currently the choir director at Hope Church Memphis. Marque has a lifelong love of music. At the age of 12, he was hired as a church organist, and little did he know that that would start his entire career. With persistent practice and dedication, his skills expanded, and he is now not only an accomplished musician, but also an arranger, writer, composer, producer, and studio owner. Marque has won numerous stellar awards and has been nominated for both Grammy and Dove Awards. In this episode, Marque shares his journey in all of the highs and lows along the way. His story is powerful, inspiring, and full of reminders as we navigate life's ups and downs and as we learn how to grow along the way. So let's get to it and meet Marque Walker in the green chair. Marque Walker, you are in the green chair.
I am in the green chair in the white room.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Man, this is such a blessing. So I know we love you. We see you all the time doing choir, doing on front line, on stage. But I want to hear the behind the scenes, Marque. So I want us to tell a little bit about your story. Starting at 12. Actually, may even go back further than that. But I didn't know this about you. At 12, you were hired to be the organist at a church.
I was. 12 years old, and the irony of it is I really couldn't play at the time.
Oh, really?
But, so my mother had she had a choir, and she had a community choir, and it was very popular at the time. She was over that choir. She plays organ as well. And so, they would always go out sing at different places, different churches, different programs, and we had a huge band. We used to have, this is back in the late '80s, early '90s. I mean, we had two drummers. Like we had an electric drum set and a regular drum set. We were the only choir in probably America at the time that had that. My mom's choir, but I would play just little fill-in stuff like little string lines, little horn lines. So it was like really simple stuff. And we went to this church, Pearly Gates. And the pastor heard me, Reverend Ernest Gillespie. He heard me. He saw me. He came to me and said, "I want you to come and play for us." And he told my mom. And my mom looked at him like, "He can't play." And his words were, "He'll grow as we grow."
Wow.
And we'll watch him grow. We'll grow with him. And sure enough, he hired me. And I'm 12 years old. I'm making $75 a week.
That's what I was gonna say. You're making money at 12.
So I'm like, shoot, so I didn't even care the fact that I couldn't play. Like, who cares that I can't play? I'm 12 years old. I'm making $75 a week, and this is in, like I say, we're talking about. I can't remember when I was 12 years old. This was '88.
Yeah.
1988.
Yeah,
so I did it, but the caveat to that was that the church was a pretty popular church. They had a broadcast every Sunday night, 6:30, which meant everybody could hear it. So the first night, the first weekend that I played, the first Sunday that I played, of course, that night, hey, I'm listening to the broadcast. And it was horrible. I was horrible, not it. The church was fine, the preaching was fine, the singing was fine. The organist, horrible. So that made me say, okay, all right, Mom, I think I need to really learn how to play. And from that point on, that's what I did.
Wow, that's really neat. Okay, so walk us through your journey since 12. I mean, starting at 12, you start to be the organist, you get better, you practice, and then kind of what happens after that?
So I'll stick almost to the 12, move up a couple of years, 14 or 15. I met some guys that had a beeper shop. And I was always kind of into stuff. I was driving early because, I'm playing at church at 12.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was, Mom and Dad kind of got tired of taking me out there all the time. So I was driving a little bit earlier than I was supposed to have been driving. And all that to say that I was doing a lot, so I needed a pager. Mm-hmm. And so I went and got a pager. And this was before I was 16. And the beeper shop that I got it from, the guys were real cool, real friendly, and they noticed that once I got one, I was bringing other people to them to get them pagers. And so they was like, man, you know how to, you know. So they had me to start helping them out selling pages at schools, and then obviously they got to know me, so they started they ended up knowing that I had some feelings with music. Just so happened they had just bought some equipment and set it up in the back of the beeper shop. None of them had any type of musical experience or musical background at all, so they had no clue as to how to work any of it. They just bought it.
Oh, wow.
So it was, mixing. It wasn't like a full studio, but it was a nice setup. And so it was like, come back here and check this out, see if you know what to do with it. So of course I went back there, and from that point on, and like I said, at this time I think I was 15. From that point on, I would get out of school, and I basically would go up there 3 or 4 times a week. And they actually started paying me $15 every time I would come up there, just to do stuff. So I started laying little tracks down and stuff. And that's how I learned how to start doing that, how to actually create music, because I was figuring out the stuff as I went too. And I started laying tracks here and there, and next thing you know, I ended up making and this was before, again, this is all early 90s, so this was even before CDs came out. And I will never forget this. I had did about 30 songs, and all instrumental kind of music, real inspirational, easy listening type of music. And I remember one of the guys' names was William Turner. That he was a tech guy. So again, he didn't know anything about the music, but and to this day, that we are still the best of friends. William Turner, Anthony Pittman. But William was always the tech guy. So he was like, "Come here, check this out." And he played something for me, and he was playing the music back. I was like, "Okay." And then he hit rewind, and it started going, and he played again. I was like, "What's that?" And that was the first time I had ever seen a CD. So what he said was, "Man, we need to put this out." And sure enough, they did. So while I was in high school, I actually had a jazz CD out that was actually selling. And believe it or not, I'm not kidding you, to this day, and I could literally show you messages in my inbox from Facebook or whatever, people are still buying the CD. It's called Marque.
Oh my goodness.
Just Sitting In.
Just Sitting In.
Yep.
I want the CD now.
People always say, "Man, I still got that purple CD." It's a purple CD, and it's a couch, and it's like I say, this is a long time ago.
That's really neat.
But that CD allowed me to start doing shows. I was doing shows, and again, I'm coming out of high school. I'm doing shows with the likes of Kirk Whalum, Wayman Tisdale, God rest his soul, Michael Phillips, which is a saxophone player, actually one of the first musicians that ever got a branding deal with Nike, Michael Jordan.
Oh, wow.
So, but that's how popular he is. So he was, and so those things led to other things. Those things led me to be able to start working with different people, and I was, at that time I was a pest. Like, I would get on people's nerves. Like, "Hey, I need you to listen to this." I would call them all the time. I would figure out a way to get to them, and it worked. Like, it worked. I literally went from that to I started working for some R&B labels, Universal, and I was traveling back and forth from Houston, be in Houston a week, be in Memphis a week, be in Houston 4 weeks, be back in Memphis, and I mean, it was great. Like, I was really doing a lot of stuff. Again, it wasn't like that was my passion to be a musician or a producer. It happened, and it's still happening. Yep.
That's really neat. Okay, so lessons along the way.
Lessons along the way, well, it's a lot of them. But mainly, at one point in time, I've always been or I've always tried to remain humble. Try to stay humble, know whose I am, and I've never got to the point where I got the big head. But I say that to say that there were some times where I would make a lot of money, and that would kind of go to my head. And so I would say, as far as lessons go, at the time when I was doing all that, and I was giving all that, and I was giving all these different things, granted, I was in church, and even then, I've always been in church. I've never not been in church. That's never been the case. Regardless to what I was doing, even when I was traveling on the road with different artists and stuff, I would say, well, hey, I got to be back on Sunday. Now, and it wasn't because I had to get back to make a check, because technically I would still get paid. I just wanted to be back because I wanted to be at church. Now, that said, although I was in church, the church wasn't fully in me. And I'm just being totally honest, it wasn't fully in me. And so I'm saying that to say that things that I would get or things that were given to me, it was taken away just as quickly because I wasn't doing the right thing with it. I wasn't into paying tithes. I wasn't into, I just wasn't there.
Yeah.
I wasn't there spiritually. And so lesson-wise, that was a lesson.
Yeah.
That was an obvious lesson.
Sounds like a big lesson.
Yeah. I even look at things where there was a couple of times where I could have, when I say been a millionaire, there was a couple of times where that was actually real. And when I got older and I learned different lessons and I went through different things and saw different things and just became, just got more wisdom. And not that I'm just the huge, obviously I'm not old enough to have that much wisdom, but I'm in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that to say that I looked at it as, man, if God would have gave me that, or if I would have gotten that then, I would be terrible now. I would not be here. Like I would not be here. Not saying that I would be gone and dead and gone. I just wouldn't be here. And where I am now, I love it. So I'm glad that those things didn't work out because I'd rather be here than just out in the world doing whatever else.
Wow, that's exciting. I mean, it has been really amazing having you on our team, and especially through this weird season we've been through, right? You guys have done so phenomenal with, a few weekends ago, we had the Acts prayer service, and you're doing the boxes on screen with our choir, you're educating our church. I think the conversation I had with you was like, we're getting to see Right on King Jesus in an evangelical Presbyterian church. You're educating us on the history of it. I love it. I love what you're doing, being on staff, what you're doing with the choir. I know you've had to pivot quite a bit with the choir.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a whirlwind, and it's funny because so April we started doing the Zoom thing, of course.
Yeah.
And I never forget, two choir members, Shar and Deanna, text me, and they was like, "You heard about this Zoom thing?" I was like, "What's that?" And so and she was like, "Well, I have it. Why don't we try it out, and maybe we can use it with the choir." And so one Sunday afternoon, we jumped on to see how it worked. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Maybe we can try it out. And so one of the choir members, and I love them all, Shar she is the MVP, and I say that because she purchased a subscription to Zoom, so that we can have the time. And I was like, I said, we don't need that. We're probably only going to be on here a couple of weeks, maybe
that's what we all
8 weeks.
That's what we all thought.
Little did anybody know that we are still doing it now.
Yep.
But what that did do for us was, if anybody knows me, I'm really big on just camaraderie. I'm really big on just family.
Yeah.
I tease them all the time. I tease the choir members all the time, and I always say that I do not want you walking past a person in the choir, in the congregation or in the hallway, and not know who they are. I always tease them about that, but I mean it. Like, I don't want you to walk past somebody, being in the foyer, not realizing that you just walked past a choir member. So I'm real big on making sure, community, making sure we know each other. So I'm saying that to say that what Zoom did was what I started doing after I realized we were going to kind of be on there for a minute. I just started doing this little thing called Getting to Know Us. And so basically I would get 1 to 2 people to share their background of where they came from, how they became a Christ follower, when they became a Christ follower, and I say where they came from in the point of, background from culture and church, because the reality is we know most of the people that are at Hope didn't come from Hope. They came from another church, more than likely, for the most part. And so just kind of got that whole thing going, and that turned into something that I wasn't expecting. And I say that to say that because of the closeness of the choir, everybody's story was extremely vulnerable. Like, nobody held back. And when I say nobody held back, I mean nobody held
Wow.
anything back. So they told stuff that they have never told people.
Wow.
And so obviously, what did that do? That just made everybody closer.
Yeah.
Because now you got people telling stories about things that happened to them, that happened to some other ones in the choir that figured, well, this hadn't happened. It's only me. Nothing like this has ever happened to anybody else. Lo and behold, they're singing right next to a person that this same detrimental thing has happened to them, but it has greatened their faith. It has given them a better perspective of life and following Jesus, and now they have somebody to grab onto that has experienced the same thing. So we ran that for the bulk of the year.
That's really great. I really love that. And one of the things just thinking through your story is I have just loved you not being afraid to step into these new spaces and just constantly learning and growing. I mean, from 12 to 16 to now being the choir director, and then to Zoom, and you're just constantly leaning into these new spaces. And I really love that. And not being afraid of change, and not being afraid to learn something new and do something new, and to make something be a little bit different. So I would love just final thoughts from you on, particularly for people listening that are needing to learn and grow, that are needing to step into new spaces. I mean, what would you encourage people on?
A couple of things. I would just say, don't be afraid of "I do not know." Like, don't be afraid of that phrase.
Yes.
"I do not know," because if the things that we feel like we have to know is the stuff that can keep us from receiving something, like actually receiving a blessing or just being in the right space at the right time, because we feel like we got to know, so we're in the wrong spot. I mean, look at Adam and Eve. They felt like they had to know, and we see what happened with that. So it's just kind of saying, I don't know, or I do not know, but I'm willing to figure it out. I'm willing to learn, and letting that formulate how it does, and let that play out how it does. The other thing is that's been just really, it's especially now, obviously with the times that we're dealing with, is Matthew 6:34. And literally, in layman's terms, it's just telling you, worry about today.
Yep.
Worry about today. Don't worry about tomorrow, because obviously we can't do anything about tomorrow. Yeah. But it says, so do not worry about tomorrow, because today there's enough trouble for today. So worry about today and just live. Let me get up tomorrow and focus on today. When I get up the next day, I'm going to focus on today. When I get up the next day, I'm going to focus on today. Instead of getting up today trying to focus on next Tuesday. There's no point for it. And again, the scripture tells us that. Yeah. So I would just say, and like I say, at this point, we're all kind of in this world of, we're starting to come out of the virus funk.
Yeah.
But it's still there.
Yeah.
And so, trying to figure out, man, when are we going to be there? When are we going to do this? When are we going to be able to do that? When are we going to be able to just worry about today?
Yeah, I really, really love that too, because I think even in focusing on today, particularly looking at your story, right? Like today, what's in front of you was to lead the organ, right? To do the organ. And then today, what's in front of you is to make these CDs or to practice, and, to learn something new. Today, choir, so I think it's stepping into the things like, I think we worry so much about what is tomorrow or the next thing going to hold that we need to step into, or what do we need to do. Even when you think of calling and purpose and all of that stuff, we worry about way down the road, but what do we have in front of us? You know, what is going on? Like, I don't even know how to play the organ, but I'm just going to learn, right? I'm going to do it. And you learned as you went along. So I think that that's so perfect, is just one day at a time. Just do today.
Do today.
Do today. I like that. Marque, thank you so much for being here with us. This is a blessing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that is a wrap for our Green Share conversation with Marque Walker. Thank you so much for being here with us. Remember, today's conversation doesn't have to end here. I would love to connect with you and hear your thoughts about today's conversation, or even topics or people you want to hear from. So feel free to send me an email. Also, we would love for you to take a moment and encourage someone today by sharing this conversation with a friend. You can also watch any previous conversations at hopechurchmemphis.com/GCC or on YouTube, as well as listen on any podcast apps. Love you guys, and I'll see you next week.